Superbike is underway.
Round one of the MotoAmerica Superbike Championship tore up the hills of North Georgia just 1 week ago, with series favorites Tony Elias and Cameron Beaubier grabbing a win each. An indication that we are set for a full season of close racing. Now we find ourselves on the technical tarmac of Texas as the Circuit of the Americas hosts the EBC Brakes Superbike class for the 5th time in MotoAmerica history. Will we see a third winner in 3 races, or will COTA specialist Tony Elias grab his 6th in 7 tries? We find out right now on Fox Sports. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2019 MotoAmerica AMA FIM North American Road Race Championship, round 2 of 10 for this season. I'm Greg White, standing alongside Jason Pridmore, and welcome to the Championship of Texas at Circuit of the Americas, just outside of Austin, Texas. Now, Jason, we were at Road Atlanta. Now we're here. Qualifying has been very close, but Tony Elias has a tendency to walk away with these races on his Yoshimura Suzuki. It just doesn't feel like it this time, does it?
No, I think this year, with the way MotoAmerica races are shaping up, I don't think anybody's going to have a big advantage anywhere, Greg. But, you know, Tony's going to be strong here, but we'll see what Cameron and the other guys have for him.
Yeah, it's a 3.4-mile circuit, 20 turns. It's very technical, but this one, it just kind of has that feel. Now, for Tony Elias, Josh Herrin, and Cameron Beaubier, they all have won national titles. And to say that there's a rivalry between those three, well, that's an understatement. But we've put this together so you can check out what we're talking about.
In my eyes, Dyson with those two, Tony and Josh, it's wild. You know, they are not afraid to bounce off each other, and they're really aggressive with each other on the track. There's been times where I've been faster in practice, and I just get kind of shuffled back on the racetrack just because I'm not aggressive enough.
I think Cameron is really strong in many areas. He's consistent and he's smart. He has big balls in the right moments, so that makes him strong for the championship. That's why he's champion all these years.
For me, that's all about the show. You know, it's about the show and kind of throwing in those unexpected jabs, you know, into the stomach. Like, you're not expecting I'm going to throw it in there because it's going to fluster you and get you all wound up, and your heart rate gets going, and that's when you make your mistake. So I'm throwing passes in the whole race. It doesn't matter how tired I get doing it.
And he always makes, you know, crazy stuff work. Like, he'll ride around the outside of you once you think that you passed him, and then all of a sudden he's on the outside of you and outbreaks you in the next corner. You're like, what the heck, man? So
what we do in the track could be also really good for our lives or worse, you know. So we try to respect each other. There's that moment, that day when you had a trouble and you finish on the grass, and in that moment you would like to start to punch them or kill them or hate them.
He's trying to go underneath Tony.
We are playing hard, and everyone is thinking, don't play with my foot.
they're extremely incredible competitors, and they've definitely made me a better racer.
When you're at the track, this is business. I mean, we're here to make money. This is our living. And, you know, I'm going to throw a pass in there. It doesn't matter if you're a teammate of mine or not. You know, it's time to make some money.
And it's those rivalries that make the EBC Brakes Superbike so competitive.
Yeah, no question. Except for this year, 2 of the rivals are on the same team, Yoshimura. So it'll be interesting to see how those guys work things out. And Cameron could be in for a good seat this weekend.
Our very own Hannah had a chance to catch up with Yoshimura Suzuki pilots Tony Elias and Josh Herrin.
All right, Tony, put it on the pole again this weekend, fastest in that last session. Your teammate was second fastest. What's it going to take to beat him during the race?
Well, I'm happy today being 1-2. This is what we need. So this is what we have to work for during the race, and go in front and try to have the Yamahas behind us. And then who will win will be okay. Always will be, if it's 1-2, always will be perfect. So he's strong, so he will be there. But I hope to win.
Speaking of Josh Herrin, Tony just said he's going to beat you tomorrow. What do you think about that? What's it going to take to beat him out there?
Hey, as long as we're 1-2, it doesn't matter. That's all that matters, right?
Do you really think that?
Yeah.
Or would you rather win?
I mean, I'd rather win, but this time we're going to work together and pull away.
All right, we'll take your word for it. Good luck out there, guys.
Thank you.
We're going to find out how it goes on the other side of this break, so stay with us. MotoAmerica's coming at you. Today's coverage is brought to you by EBC Brakes, the official sponsor of the 2019 MotoAmerica Superbike Series. Welcome back to Circuit of the Americas as we have a look at the MotoAmerica paddock. Jason Pridmore, this track is something else.
It's a long one, and it's great, Greg, but you go up that turn 1. What we don't see here is the big elevation up to turn 1 to a very slow turn all the way through those S's. That's kind of the iconic spot of this track. Turn 2, 3, all the way to turn 9. We just saw in our small warm-up session Jake Gagne tip over in turn 10 up over the top of a hill into a very hard braking turn 11 to the fastest back straightaway. Into that kind of a stadium section, Greg, 12 to 15, and then 17, 18, a great corner. Through 19, one last slow corner coming onto the front straightaway.
Jason, let's take a look at the Suzuki Hot Spots because getting a really close view of this track is really critical to understanding it.
Absolutely. I talked just now, Greg, about the elevation change coming up over the top. You have to start your turn very early. You got to commit early for turn 1 because you can't actually see a tipping point till you're up the top of the hill. So turn 1's going to be a place we're going to see quite a bit of passing. This is down now into the turn 11 before you lead onto a big, long back straightaway. That's going to be great for any kind of drafting and things that you're going to do. This is, again, turn 11 here. And you can see how long that straightaway is going to be, Greg. And what riders have to be careful of the first couple of laps coming down this straightaway here is to make sure that if they get into a draft or a double draft, that they don't get themselves into trouble when they get to this spot, the hard braking area of turn 12. What makes this track so technical is you have to train your brain to go from such a high rate of speed down to the slowness of some of these first gear corners. And then I looked at turns 16, 17. This is over the back behind the paddock. Fast right-handers, this is going to be probably third gear. You come out of here, a little bit bumpy on the exit, and back to second, and then back to the front straightaway, Greg, after one more corner.
Bikes on the grid, Jason Pridmore, as we get ready to start race number 1 here at Circuit of the Americas, and we do not see the 31 bike. It looks like Garrett Gerloff, who is supposed to be 4th on the grid behind Tony Elias, is not on that grid. We'll try to uncover that. But right now, upper right-hand, left-hand part of your screen, you got to see those red lights go on. And when they go off, clutches are out. It's a long drag up the hill to turn number 1. Tony Elias looks like he has a good launch, Jason.
Great launch. He's moved over. It looks like, again, JD Beach with a tremendous start on that attack Yamaha. He's come down the front into second. Josh Herron runs just a little bit wide, and he's going to be 5th going down the hill. Look at the amount of spreading out there is. So you got Elias in 1st. Then you got JD Beach. Then it looks like Cameron Beaubier there slotted into 3rd. What a shame for Garrett Gerloff. I don't know what's going on there, Greg.
Hopefully we'll have Hannah on the case, but at the moment, it's number 24, Tony Elias, factory Yoshimura Suzuki, setting the pace as he's done so many times, really since he got to the U.S., Jason.
Yeah, this is what people have to be a little bit worried about, especially Cameron right now. And JD's doing a really good job, but you can see a small, tiny little gap going away. The thing is, the Yoshimura Suzuki is so fast that when they come down through this section, this is the turn 10, top of the hill, and when they get down to the bottom here, there you go, Cameron goes up underneath JD Beach, Josh Herron's going up underneath Matthew Skulls, but Cameron runs wide.
Loses just one position, does Cameron. I mean, he got it for a moment, now back, but Herron is on his tailpipe. Can Herron control that wheelie and just blow by the Yamaha? So I'm looking at number 1 and number 2 back there in 3rd and 4th. Nope, Beaubier holds on to it.
And there's right there's Garrett Gerloff. So he came out of the pit. So that's good to see. The field hasn't exactly got completely away from him yet. And I think that's a pretty encouraging first lap for those Yamahas down the back straightaway behind Tony. So JD Beach was able to kind of draft up too close to him before they got into the braking zone. And now this group has stayed really close together this first lap.
And Hannah has something on Jake Gagne, who got Really, he had a big crash right before we got to this session, didn't he, Hannah?
Yeah, Jake's entire crew has cleared out of pit lane completely, so it looks like he's going to be out for this race. Touching upon what you guys were mentioning about Garrett, Garrett actually couldn't get his bike started, and they pulled off to the side of the track. He ultimately was obviously able to get it started, but he had to start from the back of the grid, so that is why you did not see him in his original starting grid position.
All right, thank you so much, Hannah. We saw a lot of action on the racetrack.
Did you see that move? Herron just went past JD Beach and Cameron Beaubier. And this is, we heard earlier one of Cameron's things about him saying sometimes he could be more aggressive, and you can see Herron was 5th when they went down this hill the last time. Now he's got himself up behind his teammate. We're going to see if what really held true that those two were speaking of earlier about maybe working together a little bit. Last week we kind of questioned why didn't those Yosh guys work together just a little bit with Cameron Beaubier coming from the 4th row. Now the two Yosh bikes are 1st and 2nd, and we'll see if they can do that. As you can see, Herron, his foot comes off the foot peg. That goes to show how much pressure these guys are putting on their feet and their legs as they go through those things to make those. Oh! Matthew Schultz almost gets in the back of JD Beach there. He's going to get it turned and get back on. That was a really kind of odd mistake there.
Yeah, no harm, no foul on that one. Another credit to the COTA track. So much asphalt available there. Jake Lewis doing 85. Yep, moving up there.
Yeah, he's in 5th. He's right behind JD Beach now. But let's see if these two guys kind of sort each other out. So I think Herron's close enough where he should be able to draft Tony right now.
Now, just to give you a bit of information, this is Jake Gagne's crash from earlier on. We had an unscheduled 10-minute warm-up session because we got rained out with lightning earlier on this morning. And so this was probably, Jason, just maybe 35, 40 minutes ago when this happened. And this is what rendered Jake Gagne and his motorcycle out of this competition.
I'm really paying attention to his legs right now as he slides off into the gravel. And it didn't look like he had done any damage. Now, the one thing I really liked about what I just saw down that straightaway, Josh Herron kind of just stayed in the back of his teammate the whole way. There was nothing, no carving each other up when they got down to the end of the straightaways. Josh kind of stayed there. Matthew Schultz looks like he's tipped over. Yep, that's 2 mistakes in that lap for Matthew. You can see all the gravel that's being dragged back out onto the racetrack. So very easy turn to do it in that tight right-hand corner, and that kind of starts our stadium section. Good to see Matthew up and okay. He should be able to fight back through and get some solid points. So I'm just looking back to see if I can see Garrett back there. It looks like he's back in about 6th. But the 3 guys that were starting on our front row have all kind of found themselves together now. Let's look at the lap times, Greg. 2:10.9, I believe. 2:10.6 for Josh Herron.
Yeah, also high 2:10s. Beaubier had a 2:10.7, faster than Tony Elias, but he's dropped off on that little straightaway. So some work possibly on the gearing for that Yamaha to do. There's number 88.
Still got gravel coming out of his bike.
Well, 88 was Max Flinders.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Matthew right behind him. Sorry.
Matthew Schultz right behind him. So Schultz, as Flinders is in 11th spot, Schultz in 12th. So he gets back up to it. And then we have Bradley Ward behind him, Sam Vertorico as well. So back up front we go. Tony trying to pull the pin on Josh Herron and Cameron Beaubier. This is what he likes to do. He wants to test riders early on and see if they have the pace to go with him.
Cameron's fast to the middle of that section.
Yeah, Josh
he really ran it up on the back of Herron there, didn't he?
Yeah, that's why I had to go a little bit wide, go over that paint. So Cameron Beaubier, your national champion. He has won a race here before. Back in 2015, beginning of MotoAmerica, they made a trip to Circuit of the Americas, and the race wins were split by Josh Hayes and Cameron Beaubier. That was the year where Yamaha won every single EBC Brake Superbike race.
It's going to be really interesting to see how Cameron strategizes this race, because his bike just doesn't seem to have the top end that the Suzuki's had. You can see how they pulled away from him on that straightaway. So if he leads coming onto that straightaway, he's a bit of a sitting duck late in the race, say the last lap. And I feel like he can't draft past them to get close enough to them to do anything at the end of the straightaway. So, and it's going to be very hard for him to conserve tires at this track specifically, especially with the advantage that it seems like the Yoshimura guys can kind of pull on him down some of these straights. You can see through all this section, they all look pretty close. Cameron's bike, they definitely made some changes to that overnight, or from session 1 to session 2. By the time they got to Super Pole yesterday, the bike definitely looks a lot better.
Left-hand part of your screen is the running order. So your favorite rider represented on that graphic: Elias, Herron, Beaubier, Beach, Lewis, your top 5. Also of note, Jason, Yoshimura Suzuki's of Tony Elias and Josh Herron running the same combination of Dunlop tires. So it's the soft combo. We know that from the sticker on it, where Cameron Beaubier is running extra soft front, extra soft rear. So when you talk about conserving tires, now it's not just one for one.
Right.
Each motorcycle is set up a little differently, and we know that Cameron Beaubier loves that extra soft front tire. So later on in this race, we'll see if it plays a factor. By the way, fastest lap of the race was just pulled by number 31, Garrett Gerloff, in 6th spot. He just did a 2:10.449. We'll be back with more from Circuit of the Americas. Welcome back to EBC Brakes Superbikes.
See how much tighter Tony can kind of keep the bike in certain sections, and he's still able to make it work. And I always find it interesting when you have two guys on the exact same team with the exact same bike, especially with a crew like Yoshimura with as much experience they have, but they can do two different things, but they both can make things that they're doing work. And we've watched Cameron enough now to where we know he's just kind of sitting there watching, and he's going to, now he knows that both these guys are riding around the same pace. It's going to be really now who can keep the motorcycle underneath them the best for the next, say, 8 laps as they get ready to start lap 6 right now.
I know what you're saying, Jason, but if you're Cameron, with the acceleration of those Suzukis, where? Well, if you're thinking about it, where are you going to be able to attack and make it stick? It seems to me like it's going to have to be last lap, the very late part of the lap.
He's going to work it out, though, Greg, because right now, all he's going to do is try to, if he tried to get away from these guys, I don't think it would be, I think if Cameron felt like he could just jump away from these guys right now, that he would have already tried to make a big pass. I haven't been able to really see anything that tells me that Cameron just feels like he can just go by these guys right this second and pull away. So he's very, very good about keeping bikes underneath him. We've seen him do this before, even last weekend in Atlanta, when he had to come from the 4th row. He got himself up into that 5th and 6th spot and sat there the entire race. And I think, too, he's also going to have it in the back of his mind with Josh and Tony's kind of history with each other. He's going to look as he goes now up underneath Tony Elias, and Tony wants to try to tip it in because Tony likes to go in there tight, like we've talked about, but he makes that pass. Now let's see what happens here. Can he get in the draft of Josh Herrin?
And does he feel like he has pace? We know that the fastest race lap ever recorded was Cameron Beaubier, the 2:09.1 back in 2017. He has a lot of pace here. The question is, does he feel like he can get around Josh Herrin and set sail? Because he knows that these two Yosh pilots are fighters. They're scrappers. Yep. They will throw shots at him to disrupt his flow, especially Tony, because he's going to go to work, quick work, on his teammate, or on his competitor, Cameron Beaubier, and say, okay, Cameron's got to flow through this corner, so that means if I just park him, I'm going to be able to just chop up that fast time that he's doing.
Right, and that is the key, is that Cameron can get to these turns on his own and try to roll through them. That's going to be kind of the difference. But see, I feel like Tony right now is he's got to see what Herrin has, and he's going to follow whatever Cam does now as they come down here into this last corner. He's going to have a look up underneath the inside of Herrin and make that pass, Greg. Now let's see what happens as they shoot out of here. Will Herrin turn back up underneath him and have the power to go back past? You can see Cameron moves over to the left to try to defend things a little bit, and he's just not able to, but he's going to outbrake Herrin. So we're going to actually see Cameron Beaubier now lead through these S's for the first time as he runs a bit wide.
He'll be able to hold it, though, tight back up the inside.
Yeah, he's able to hold it. And so now we're going to get to see, does he pull a gap through these S's over the Yoshimura Suzukis?
I'm looking at the body language of Josh Herrin, too, to see how frantic he's going to get. Like, if it's really going to up the pace, you'll see a slight body language change.
Yep.
Little bump on
in the middle there. But there, you see Tony now is starting to think to himself, okay, Cameron wants to go. But I think if Tony just kind of sits there and can be on the back of Herrin as they come out of turn 11, which is where they're headed down right now. There's turn 10, and now they're heading down. Look at who's catching them, Greg. Garrett Gerloff is coming. And with these guys messing around with each other just a little bit, it's going to allow maybe a 4th rider into the fray here. So Cameron could have been looking at his pit board as well and seeing that he was getting caught maybe. And so Tony right now, I feel like, needs to try to get up to Josh, maybe try to draft him. He's got a double draft, but look at both these guys can pull up on the back of that Yamaha. Herrin's trying to go past Cameron as they head into this braking zone.
Couldn't quite get it done.
Couldn't quite get it there.
I'm just thinking, Garrett Gerloff can get up onto this group.
Yeah.
And he's got enough tire underneath him. We saw Cameron Beaubier in race 1 at Road Atlanta, come from 11th on the grid and win the race. Now, could we see Garrett Gerloff coming from the last row of the grid? This is incredible.
Yeah, well, no, he's right. Amazing. There's no question about that. It had to make his heart sink when his bike wouldn't stop. Cameron Beaubier is going to have a lot of confidence knowing that he pulled enough of a gap that these guys couldn't draft past him. But he's just got to continue to pound it out.
The other thing is as we were watching on Friday, Jason, and calling the qualifying practice number 1, qualifying practice number 2, was the stability of the Yoshimura Suzuki of Tony Elias, especially on the straightaway.
Yep.
And take a look at his motorcycle now. And what we were talking about is, does it wiggle? And it's not as stable as Josh Herrin's motorcycle, as Herrin's going to blow by Cam Beaubier up into turn number 1. Herrin's going to go tight to the apex. Is he going to be able to hold it? A little wide, but he's still able to get it up on the meat of the tire and get a drive. Beaubier trying to sweep around the outside and gets it.
Yep, big move by Cameron. So he definitely feels, and I think has the confidence knowing that if he can just get through all these S's faster. I'm just looking at our boards right now. There was only one guy in the 210s that last lap, and it's that guy in 4th place that keeps on closing up on these guys, Garrett Gerloff. But it's so hard, Greg, to run through these S's as fast as you can every single lap and push to the extent that Garrett's trying to push to, Cameron's Beaubier tries to pull away from them. And you can see this lap, he didn't quite get as big a gap, and now Garrett has basically joined the party. These guys are, Tony kind of was a little bit sloppy in 10. You can see he's even too wide as he gets into turn 11, trying to get that bike slowed down. Cameron ran wide, so that allowed Herrin to go through. Now Tony's going to get a double bike draft.
So Josh Herrin may have got a little bit of the brake adjuster, something, or maybe a map change. I saw his left hand work the bar a little bit. Hardest braking part of the circuit, off the back straightaway.
Oh, look what Tony does.
Dive bombs right to the apex for position.
Just see him do it all the time. It looks like he's going to follow in there, and then he goes straight to the apex. And now Gerloff fires a shot at his teammate as well. Cameron might be able to turn it up underneath him. He does. So now it's a fight of 4 guys. And what we're seeing, the reason why the racing's so close is because we're seeing small mistakes in the slowest corners.
How about Garrett Gerloff? What a run for the second-year Superbike pilot. Super Sport champion back in 2017. And what an incredible run for him. Luckily, Jason, this is lap 8 of 15, because had that been the last lap, it would have blown this race wide open. But there's enough tarmac left in this one to possibly close it back up to Josh Herrin.
Yeah, and I think Garrett now just needs to be a tiny bit patient. I don't think he's going to be able to get away from these guys, even though he ran those times. It's a lot easier to have carrots in front of you that you can kind of see out there. Garrett right now is lining up his teammate for a pass as they come up into the top of the hill. And he's not quite able to get there. But what's happening now is Herrin's just got himself a little bit of breathing room. And these guys are all going to try to collect in behind him to try to just get back on the back of him before they get through to turn 11. And here you go. You're going to see Cameron's leading the way. He gets the bike backed in a little bit, can't get it turned. Tony as well had the rear wheel off the ground. But those little mistakes, and this is what we talk about with track day riders and stuff. Slow corners are so technical. There's only so fast you can go through slow corners. So you've got to get the bike slowed down and get through the slow corners clean, because that's where we make our biggest errors.
It's closed back up onto Josh Herrin. Only a couple bike lengths between he and Tony Elias, his teammate. Herrin on the number 2. Easily distinguished these 2 Yoshimura Suzuki bikes. Tony Elias with that bright yellow paint versus the orange paint on Josh Herrin's bike, plus that dark number 2. Cameron Beaubier with that bright green helmet on the number 1 bike as those 2 teammates start to scrap it out.
Well, Tony just had to look over his shoulder to see how many people were in the party, and now he knows it's not only just Cameron, but his partner, his Garrett Gerloff teammate, has joined the fray as well. And when you talked yesterday about Tony and some of the setup changes, we saw them change a shock in the middle of the session to make that bike a little bit unstable down the straights. That's that movement that we're seeing. And obviously he was able to give up a little bit of straight line stability for some of the slower sections that you see now. He's got a little bit more grip, and those might have been the trade-offs that he was doing.
Impressed with Josh Herrin and him controlling the pace of this race. He looks awfully tidy leading it. As you can see, who's involved in this battle for first. It's Herrin, Elias, Beaubier, Gerloff. Back in 5th, JD Beach and Jake Lewis. Having a go. Here goes Gerloff side by side with his teammate. Can't quite get that one done. David Anthony in 7th, Cam Peterson in 8th, Kyle Wyman on the Ducati in 9th, Matthew Skoltz in 10th ahead of Travis Wyman. More MotoAmerica after this. We're back at the Championship of Texas at the Circuit of the Americas, just outside of Austin. This is the kind of racing we expect to see, as tight as this, Jay.
Yeah, every weekend is what I think you'll see between these 4 guys. Specifically, it's going to be a question of who's going to bridge the gap to them.
Josh Herrin with a nice clean line over the top of the hill. We know that any left, any right, and it gets quite bumpy. All right, so we've seen it like this before, where they kind of close up over the crest of that hill. Now, strategy starts to really play as the laps are winding down. Beaubier trying to find a clean way through. You can see they're almost 2 wide, 3 wide going through that corner.
Yeah, well, all 4 of them really took their time to get through there. Now, this is a good shot. Cameron's looking right at the back of Tony. Now, see, he's close enough to draft, Greg. That's going to be a big, and Tony's drafting Herrin.
Uh-oh. I thought Beaubier for a second was going to lay off the brake lever.
Tony's going to go for it, though. He's got to let off the brake lever because he's underneath Herrin. And
Herrin
really
to the
close.
apex because Beaubier was there.
Yep, but that's just good close racing, and Cameron goes up underneath Herrin. Now this is a spot where we saw Cameron have a couple little incidents in years past. I think he fell there twice last year, Greg, once in the rain. And but now the 2 guys, he probably saw Tony want to take the lead and try to get away, and he doesn't want to allow that to happen. Now what I'm going to be interested to see now is if Garrett Gerloff takes a shot at Herrin in the next left-hander, because he was so good in there the lap prior, but Herrin looks tremendous through this big long right. Yep, he looks really good there, and Garrett is just going to fall in behind as well.
I mean, the last time by, Herrin stood at 2:12.0 to lead the way. Everyone else was in the 11s. So the pace had dropped a bit. The fastest laps of the race are in the 2:10.4, 2:10.5 range. So, you know, the pace had dropped just a little bit, and this time by, with a lead change, Tony Elias drops it to a 2:11.9. So Beaubier's at a 2:11.7, and Herrin at a 2:12.4.
Now we're going to get to see Now we're going to get to see what the lap times really are, because Tony's going to put his head down here, I think, for this next lap or so and just see what kind of gap he can open. And here you go. This is at the end of the back straightaway. Tony's committed to going up underneath Herrin, and Herrin's got the door open just a little bit, but look, left Cameron just enough room. So that's just good, clean racing. And then Cameron was able to turn it back up underneath him when they went into that next right. All through the S's here, these guys all look close and keeping it together.
5 laps to go. 4.5, really. Tony Elias, number 24, leading. Cameron Beaubier on the number 1. You're looking at your last 2 series champions.
Cameron's coming after him right now, Greg. You can see it. But watch how Tony will diagonalize his line straight in. You can see how the paths kind of cross. Tony's very good at getting the bike in the lowest gear and then aiming right for the apex.
Doesn't leave a lot of room for someone to pass.
But see the jump he got off that turn? Now Cameron can't get into the draft like we saw him do last time. We see that he falls back a little, so it's going to be almost impossible for him to pass Tony into this corner on any lap because the gap is too great. He's going to have to do it in the turn before Garrett Gerloff moves up into 3rd. He's going to have to do it into 11 and try to park Tony.
But Jason, it plays to how important practice can be. So the question is, if Cameron Beaubier is able to lead Tony Elias, he's going to have to use a line that he might not have tried before, which is he's going to have to go really tight to block any chance of Tony Elias going straight to the apex coming off the back straightaway and take that line. If you haven't practiced it in practice, it's going to be a gamble to do it in the race.
You bring up a great point. That said, these 2 have raced each other so much that Cameron kind of knows, and you can see this little bit of a gap. 32.3 is the fastest that we've seen in this split. Garrett Gerloff right now just ran as well, 32.4. But the 2 at the front are just trying to sneak away right now. Let's look at this lap time when they come across. See how Tony almost looks slow at the apex, but then he can fire off that bike?
So good at it.
And what it does is if you're behind him, you can't carry that normal roll speed that you'd carry through because you're going to run into the back of him. So he's just so very good at this kind of racetrack where you got to be on the brakes very, very hard, and it makes it really hard for him to pass. The one place that Cameron is tremendous is up over the top of turn 10. And this is all coming through these S sections. As you can see the top speeds on the right side of our screen there. Look at that, Kyle Wyman 3rd, 185.9
wow.
on that Ducati. Wait till he starts getting that bike really sorted out. He could be another player in this thing. But all through this S section is, you can see they're kind of spreading out a little bit now. But we're coming into turn, this is going to be turn 8. And then the next one is another left, and then the turn 10 is where Cameron's really good, where they're coming up to right now.
So since Tony passed, by the way, they've dropped the lap times by about 0.8 of a second down into the 2:11 lows, 2:11.1 each for Tony and Cameron, where when Josh was leading before he got passed, it was a 2:12. So those 9/10 of a second are showing right now as Josh Herron's starting to fall off the back of this group. So it looks like he had all the pace he had at the moment. As the laps continue to wind down, Garrett Gerloff has done an incredible job to get himself in a position for a potential podium spot. Josh Herron will never give up until the checkered flag flies. We know that.
No, absolutely not. Josh will still be trying to fight his way back, and you can see this is the battle for fifth rather, as JD Beach now has kind of moved away by 1.2 seconds the last lap over Jake Lewis, who's riding tremendous as well. Both these guys right now are in the 212, 213 range. Both have bests of right in the mid 211s. So they're not that far off. But these two guys now are just trying to make a small break. And if Cameron can stay close enough to where he can sniff any kind of draft when they come on that back straightaway, that's going to pull them away from the battle for third.
And what's at stake here? It's early days in the season. I understand that. But there's still a championship that's starting to formulate. And Tony Elias has 4 points on Cameron Beaubier. If Cameron Beaubier can win this one and put Tony behind him, that's a 5-point difference. We're going to see another change in the lead for the championship.
Do you see that? Do you see how he goes left? He just diagonalizes the line. Now, he went a little wide there, but it doesn't hurt him because he gets down to the bottom of the track so quick, and then he just pulls the trigger on that Yoshimura Suzuki, and he's got the bike. I'd have to ask him if he's in first or second gear, but the thing is, Greg, it looks to me like he goes back to first. He really gets the bike stopped, gets it tipped in. He doesn't run a lot of engine braking on his bike. We know that from talking to Roger yesterday. Raj likes to ride with a lot of engine brake. Remember when he talked to us about switching bikes? So Tony probably gets it into that low gear, hammers on the brakes, diagonalizes his way in just off the middle part of the tire where he can still get a lot of bite out of that front tire, trail braking, and then he fires it off the turns. This is the one spot where Cameron's good, though, up over the top, but he's got to be closer in order to try to do something with Tony down at the bottom of this hill, because Tony, again, will move over. See how he kind of moves it in?
Oh, yeah. Cameron's trying to open it up, but he can't, like you're saying, Jason, carry that roll speed to get the line, exit line that he really wants. There's the splits, left part of your screen, so we can see 2/10. Gerloff now just over a half a second behind. Down the long back straightaway. Beaubier not close enough. You can see that Tony just has that motorcycle dancing on top of the pavement. It's just the rhythm that he has with the Yoshimura Suzuki.
No, that's exactly right. Here's a little replay of Gerloff going up underneath Herron a lap or so ago, and Josh has done a tremendous job to get himself back in this fight. You can see he is climbing back onto the back of Garrett Gerloff right now. He's not letting these guys go. And I mean, really, when you're in Josh Herron's spot right now in fourth, anything can happen right in front of you. It's only going to take a small mistake to try to do something with him here.
We'll be back with more from Circuit of the Americas. Welcome back to EBC Brakes Superbikes.
I think Cameron is a thinker, and he watches what goes on, but he's not going to be afraid to make a pass. It's probably going to be a place that we haven't really documented just yet. You can see here, all going down through the S's. This is all pretty one line. Can't really do much here.
But it is, with both where these riders will talk to you, the strength of the Yamaha.
Yes.
It has a way to just flick through these corners a little bit better. Although it's a favorite of Tony Elias. We heard him on a podcast earlier this week talk about how he likes certain sections of this track, and the section that we just went through is part of Tony's favorite.
And now they got a back marker just in front of him, but Tony's just pulled away ever so slightly here. And they're going to go past somebody. And Garrett's trying so hard to get on the back of him. You see Garrett runs a lot of corner speed, but see how it ruined his exit just a little? And those guys just kind of gap him. So what it does now is Cameron's trying so hard to just get into that draft, and it pulls them away from Garrett as they go down this back straightaway. And the hard part is that if you're Garrett Gerloff, you've got to try to figure out a way to outbrake these guys going into here just to try to make up that deficit. It's very hard to do that lap after lap.
And when it comes to throwing a shot at Tony Elias, how do you outbrake the braking master?
It's really hard, and it literally is one of those things where when you look at the speeds, like we had it just a little bit ago here, it doesn't always tell the story, because those can be kind of draft induced also. They can actually help you. But he's just so good about being patient, getting the bike slowed down and stopped is Tony. And that's the thing that makes him hard. Cameron looks like he's got some speed all the way through here, doesn't he?
Certainly does. We're heading to the final lap, folks.
Look at it.
If you've been chilling on your couch or your recliners laid back, you better prop this thing upright, because this thing's getting ready to get really interesting as we're going to head to the white lap.
I think Cameron, just by the view that we just had there as we go into the white flag lap, it's going to be one of the final 2 corners, Greg. I'm calling second to last corners where he's going to take a shot.
The last lap of this race, Tony Elias leads the way in the 24 from Cameron Beaubier on the number 1 as they peel it into turn number 1. Beaubier's got a decent brake marker and a run at him. Garrett Gerloff in 3rd spot, pulling away from JD Beach. Jason, now is the time. If Beaubier has done all the work and studied what Tony Elias is doing, his plan is set in motion right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's just trying to get himself closer. I think that the shot he's going to take is going to be very late in the lap. It's going to be a lunge down the inside in, I believe it's turn 19, Greg. And we're looking on the left side of our screen, and we're seeing Garrett go down. He may have lost his transponder, or maybe there's a reason, but you can see him very solidly there, still in 3rd. So for Garrett Gerloff fans that are out there watching, seeing that, he's still in the race, he's still there. Now, this is the one spot that I thought Cameron might be able to take a chance, but he's just not close enough now. So Tony's going to get it in there, and watch how he doesn't really lose anything. He's going to be able to fire it out.
I think for that one, Cam gave him a little bit more room and tried to get a run on him in the draft. Back straightaway action. Cam Beaubier, he's closing on him. Is he going to make the move now?
Wow.
He pulls out and he goes by, but we know how Tony is. Right to the apex he goes. Is there any room for 2 bikes? Tony Elias back with the lead.
Now he's got to be careful here, because Cameron was going to try to do something up underneath him. So it's great to see that Yamaha had the power. See how cagey Tony is? He's not going to open it up in the middle and let Cameron cut back up underneath him. Now they're kind of back on their traditional lines. They've sorted things out for a couple of turns, but Cameron's got a lot of pace in this next right-hander, and I think that he's going to fire a shot in the left-hander that comes right after this one.
Cameron Beaubier, half a bike length behind Tony Elias. This is for the race win. A little wider goes the number 1 plate. Tony getting on the gas. They're going to slam on the brakes and go to the apex. There goes Beaubier. Can he get the drive out? A little wheelie. He's going to leave it open. And Tony Elias, oh, they touch. Now it's the run to the checkered flag. And it looks like Beaubier gets pushed wide, and that'll do it.
Wow.
Tony Elias, Cameron Beaubier, and Garrett Gerloff with the fastest lap of the race on the last lap. 1/10 of a second behind his teammate. Nearly steals the win from these two. Coming from last on the grid. And our early race leader, Josh Herron, in 4th. JD Beach in 5th with Jake Lewis in 6th spot. Here's a look at the final results. Jason, Tony Elias, margin of victory, .089. Garrett Gerloff in 3rd spot. Josh Herron, JD Beach, and Jake Lewis with Matthew Skoltz, David Anthony, and Cam Peterson. Let's get right down to Hannah, who has our race winner.
I'm here with Tony Elias. Tony, what a hard-fought battle to the finish there with Cam. Take us through that last lap.
Well, it's been a strange weekend. Not many practice, working hard and a lot. But I think we did a great job. The only thing, any tire we chose was difficult right to the end. Probably Cameron had problems. Me too, everyone's. But we battled hard. I keep calm for the most part of the race, in 3rd position, trying to understand the situation. But I was in a risk. P3 was not good for me. I started to overtake, trying to do my rhythm. But we were on the limit. The tires are sliding a lot. Cameron was there. I did a mistake in the last lap. Anyway, he did a great job. He tried so hard, me too. This year it's gonna be a difficult year. If we wanna win, we'll have to sweat a lot. Both, me, him, and everyone. But that makes a great show, so I hope you enjoy it. And thanks to my Yoshimura Suzuki. They are working so hard, so good. My family, my girlfriend Christy, my family in Spain. So thank you so much.
Don't go anywhere. More from Circuit of the Americas on the other side of this break. What a race we've had. spectacular race one. Fans checking out Circuit of the Americas from the observation deck and having a great time as we are having this weekend. Now, Jason, after race one, I think the key for, say, Cameron Beaubier is to go back to the drawing board and to talk to the team, not necessarily about building a bike to beat Tony Elias, but to really emphasize the strengths of the R1 to see if they can possibly race with him.
Well, the big thing is it didn't look like he had the legs going down the back straightaway. And when you look at setting up bikes, there's certain things that the Suzuki does better, and there's certain things that the Yamaha does better. If Cameron tries to ride his Yamaha like a Suzuki, it probably wouldn't work, and it's the same for Tony. Tony has this ability to be able to, and we've covered it many times, get to the apex of these very slow corners in a way that nobody else can, which makes him very hard to get past. They did learn some things from each other yesterday, so it'll be interesting to see what they bring to the table today.
And, you know, we talked about the wind, and really when we got out of that commentary booth and stuck our noses outside, it was a lot stronger than we even thought it was. Nearly 10-12 mile an hour difference down the back straightaway with a headwind, and it really took you up the hill into turn one.
Yeah, and it makes a real big difference, does the wind, because when you come down that back straightaway, now you have to move all your markers up a little bit more. Your braking markers have to get closer to the corner, and if you catch any air pockets or anything like that that can get you into that corner a little deeper, it can mess things up. Also, when you go down the front straightaway with that big tailwind pushing you, when you're going up that hill and the wind's pushing you, you got to wait for where your tipping point's going to be. It can just make things really tricky, and that's what makes COTA so technical.
Well, Jason, let's take a look at race two highlights from Circuit of the Americas.
Let's do it, Craig. Yesterday, we saw Tony Elias jump off to a quick start, and he did the same exact thing today. This time, however, his Yoshimura Suzuki teammate Josh Herrin followed suit right behind him. Josh took a shot at him early in the turn 11 area before they head down this big long back straightaway. You see JD Beach there, third place early on the attack Yamaha before he runs a little bit wide in our infield section here. The two Yosh guys at the front were doing exactly what they said. They were working together. When Matthew Skultz had a problem a little bit further back, he would pull off the track but rejoin. Then we saw Cameron Beaubier get into turn 11 or turn 12 just a little bit too hot, and that created a gap, but that guy wasn't done yet. These two guys, though, continued to just do the same thing over and over. Herrin would poke his nose in here and there without making a pass until, with about 4 laps to go, he decided to take a shot down into turn 12. A lap later, Tony did the exact same thing. He drafted past Josh. They were working well together. All the while, the number one of Cameron Beaubier was sitting back there until then. Josh Herrin's front fender explodes off his bike, and Tony couldn't get his bike into gear. This was Josh Herrin's big chance to try to jump away from the rest of them, and he did just that, Greg, with a very fast lap on his last one to pull away and get his first win of the season.
Massively impressive for Josh Herrin, who takes the win by 9/10 of a second over his teammate Elias. Then you have Cameron Beaubier and Garrett Gerloff. Those two factory Yamahas packed there in third and fourth. Jake Lewis, Cam Peterson, Kyle Wyman on the Ducati, David Anthony on the Kawasaki, and a BMW in ninth place. Here's the point standings. 13 adrift is Beaubier after 4 races. Josh Herrin moves up into third in this championship. So much more of this race action coming on this season. Well, that will do it from Circuit of the Americas for our coverage here on FS2. For Jason Pridmore and Hannah Lopa, I'm Greg White. Thanks so much for joining us. We will see you in a couple weeks' time from Virginia International Raceway. The long winter wait is over as MotoAmerica Superbikes fire up race engines for the first time in 2019. When we last left our heroes, Yamaha's Cameron Beaubier rode a 7-race midseason win streak all the way to his 3rd national championship. But the field is stacked with hungry racers trying to knock off the Californian, led by 2017 champion Tony Elias, who has motive, opportunity, and desire to grab back the title. And Tony's new teammate, 2013 Superbike champ Josh Herrin, was something to prove. Add in Superbike sophomore and teammate to Beaubier Garrett Gerloff, well, it's his year to deliver. Plus, the likes of race winner Matthew Skultz, Supersport champ JD Beach, and returning from World Superbike, star Jake Gagne, and so many other ripping fast riders. Things are about to get crazy as the EBC Brakes class invades the hills of Brazelton, Georgia, right now on Fox Sports.